Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar today. My name is Clara. I'm on the marketing team at Phrase, and it is my pleasure to welcome you all here at this panel discussion with expert speakers from three very successful brands with a presence on international markets: Puma, On Running, and Glovo. With that said, I'm going to stop sharing the screen and introduce the panel today. So we have Petra Mesic, team head of translation and localization at Puma. Hi, Petra.
Hi, Clara. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you.
Good to have you. Next, we have Stefania Russo, head of UX content at Glovo. Hi, Stefania.
Everyone. Nice to meet you.
And we have Matteo Nonne, localization program manager at On. Hi, Matteo.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here.
And moderating the panel today, we have Andrea Tabacchi, Chief Customer Officer at Phrase. So over to you, Andrea.
Thank you, Clara. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this expert panel on multilingual e-commerce. It's very exciting to have this caliber of speakers, and I'm very happy to be here and moderate this panel today. So maybe let's start with a round of introduction. What is your role within your organization? What do you do? Let's start with Petra.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Petra, and I'm a team head for translation and localization at the global e-commerce team at Puma, based in Germany. Joined the company 7 months ago, but I've been in the industry for almost 9 years now.
Who wants to go next?
I can go next. So hi, everyone. I'm Stefania. I'm the head of UX content at Glovo. It's a delivery company headquartered in Barcelona, Spain. I lead both the localization and the UX writing team here. And I've been in the industry for around 18 years as well. On to Matteo.
Yeah, that leaves me. I'm Matteo. I'm based in London, England, and I lead the localization program at On, formerly known as On Running. I work predominantly on marketing and e-commerce content, but I support virtually any localization needs across the organization.
Thanks, everyone. And so let's start with you, Matteo. So your manager is coming to you and saying, okay, we want to expand into a new region, and you pick the region. So what are the steps that you would put in place to be successful from the start?
Right. Yes. Like you correctly said, sometimes the request comes from my manager, but it can also come from a specific region, seeing a need to do more work and offer content that's more catered for that type of audience. In which case, I would start by gathering data and putting together a business case to support and show that there's, in fact, a need to localize. The data I would look at, it is a wide range, really. It could span from website traffic coming from a specific market. It could be social media impressions and general attention that the brand is gathering across different platforms, as well as compelling needs such as broader market factors, such as the growth of a specific country financially, economically. So generally speaking, I would also look at things that could propel the organization a little bit further in terms of its growth. And a good example of this would be a country where a language that's spoken across other markets is also spoken. So a good example of this could be Mexico, for instance. If say the Mexican marketing team approaches me asking me to lead the penetration of the organization into the market, then I would encourage them and also other marketing teams based in the Latin American region to think more broadly and save efforts to increase the presence in the whole region, not just in one country within the region. And so that's when we would also look at different strategies and how to approach localization itself. For instance, do we localize our whole product range, or do we select certain products based on what's more relevant for those specific markets and audiences? Going back to the idea of Latin America, do we hyper-localize? And so do we offer an experience that's a local of Spanish for every country that we decide to launch into? Or do we offer a more quote-unquote neutral version of Spanish that could potentially work across different markets? So once the business case has been put together, we also need to be able to demonstrate return on investment and do a little bit of forecasting and be able to prove that the initial investment that we're making is going to reap some fruits eventually. And we do that by doing a little bit of research into what past market expansions have brought, and we try to essentially sell the value of localization in that sense. And even though the business case might get approved and we decide to go on ahead, that's something that we need to keep an eye on and be able to track and report on a little bit later on as well, and effectively for potentially a few years after the launch itself.
Yeah.
Yes, and then we will get into the nitty-gritty of globalization, internationalization, and vendor management and recruitment, and so on and so forth. But I don't want to say too much, and I'll leave the rest of the panel to jump in.
Yeah, thank you, Matteo. Like that was like very interesting. Also, like and we'll get back to the data points, right? To the question of data and return of investment. What about you, Petra? Like when your manager is coming to you that they want to expand into a new region, like what are the steps that you put in place?
So sometimes I play a bad cop and I want to see what are the reasons for investing into a new market, because we get inquiries all the time about investing into different markets and localizing everything. But I always question myself, does it make sense to localize everything into all languages? And so I'm trying to be more economical. For example, we might expand into a new market where we have two different languages, one that is commonly spoken and used as a high regard language, and another one that is spoken by everyone in the country, but maybe it's not that it doesn't bring the value, that much value, because it's spoken by a low number of users. So we are always looking into the number of the inhabitants of the certain market has. Also about the usage of English. For example, in certain countries in the Southeast Asia, English is very widely adopted. Then we also check what the competition does, looking at Matteo here. So yeah, these are all different parameters that we take into account when deciding to localizing into a new market.
Stefania.
Yes, so as Petra was saying, also in the same line, whenever someone with local teams or local people that ask, can we add just a new language for this market? So first thing is looking at the numbers of the language that is used, the mobile, for instance, app device language that is used in the country. And then we had cases in which we had to push back. There are literally no users in this language, so it doesn't justify the investment. We also had cases that we have been requested to add a local language that for the same reason, the app was not localized in the past, but for political reasons, then local governments are requesting all the companies in the country to use the local language. So these are also different cases. Also, so basically everything should be like data driven. Also, we had cases in which within Spain, only for one of the application, we had to add a local language like Euskera, because there were top revenue partners that really wanted that their content in the local language. So like it's also a matter of understanding the needs. And maybe from expanding into new languages, from my case, it's probably something different because it's very linked to the ground operations. So it's not that I can, hey, we should go into this new, into France, because there are strict rules, strict company rules when to move into a new country, because it's very linked to competitions, to competition. And in that case, even though we are not like the decision maker on which country to expand, we are part of the expansion task force. So every time there is like a new need to launch the company in a new market, then we are from the very beginning in this task force, making sure that all the content is localized from day one of the launch. So and we are, and because of course having couriers or riders with on the ground, basically there is a lot of regulations and local rules that needs to be in place before going into a new country. So yeah, it's a two-sided collaboration.
Yeah, that's actually pretty cool. Like seeing how localization is becoming more and more important, right? It's not just an afterthought. It's becoming part of like the task force that is part of the launch in a new market. I think it's you did a very good job in advocating for it. Like
and all of a sudden everything is like needed from day one.
Yes. Yeah. That's the flip side. But
yes.
like yeah. So the second question is about the team, right? Like and how you structure your team. Like Petra, like what is the value actually of having a localization team in house?
Yeah, so I don't know if I mentioned in the introduction, but as Andrea is just asking, I'm also managing an internal team of localization specialists and copywriters at Puma. And I would say the biggest value is writing compelling copies by taking the Puma brand into account. Because as you know, our internal copywriters, as you can imagine, they are really ingrained in the company. They know our brand values, our tone of voice. They also have the access to the content that is still not released, that is confidential, so they can see the content first and they can act right from the start. They have become a very valuable commentators on the content that we get from different marketing teams, because they sometimes question the copy. They are very detail oriented, so they notice the inconsistencies very quickly. And also they've been very proactive in reaching out to our new markets, or as we call them internally, regions, and proposing to localize into certain variety, such as, for example, Canadian French, or improving the existing copy. So I think the value is immense, and they are very approachable. So thanks to them, thanks to being them being our Puma ambassadors, we are getting more and more copy and translation requests, and I think that's the whole point of having an internal team.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Really acting also as subject matter experts, right? Like they are the voice of Puma, like in the given language. Exactly. Yeah. That's great. Matteo, like what about you? What's your setup like, and how do you handle things?
I'm not as lucky as Petra is, so I can't unfortunately count on a team of internal copywriters. But I do recognize the value in having a team of direct freelancers that I've been working with in my case, for a few years now. So they know the brand inside out. They have been responsible for establishing what is the tone of voice, so how we communicate for each of those languages. But I'd say, not to promote myself, but having a localization manager, localization program manager, however the organization calls it, in-house, helps educating the rest of the team and creating awareness around what localization is, as it's most commonly mistaken for just simple translation a lot of the time among non-experts. I also collaborate with an LSP because I also recognize the value of working at scale for certain content types. And I definitely can see the benefit of that versus working with individual freelancers who perhaps I employ more on creative content, such as copy that is meant to convert and bring more sales, against the LSP that would then work on things that are a little bit more day to day and a little perhaps less on the creative side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, content hierarchy and deciding content tiering and deciding it's quite important, like to be able to spend the right amount of time on the right things, right? Like, so what about you, Stefania? How's your setup?
So we've been going through these two different stages. So when I joined the company, we were working directly with freelance translators per language. But soon after, we have moved through the collaborating with an LSP. So the reasons were mainly for a scaling reason. Also, our team is small, so managing freelancer is also a time-consuming activity in terms of vendor management, accounting, and comparing to the continuously growing volumes that we were experiencing, it was not really something that we could maintain. Anyway, when we switched to a collaboration with an LSP, we maintained some of the freelancers that we were working with us. So we created a pool of language leads that are focusing on our product content. So at least in this way, you can still maintain some sort of tiering within the whole services. In general, I think, of course, I see the value of having a mixed approach. I would, in ideal world, probably I would, for top countries and top languages, I would have in-house linguists or a copywriter for specific types of product, and then differentiating them working with an LSP or working with other freelancers. So there is not a solution that fits all the cases. So I think it depending on the company situation, the type of content and the scale that you need to have, then you need to adapt and constantly adapt it. So it's not once you find the solution is the right one.
Yeah, yeah, change.
Yes.
Yeah. No, but it's I guess we can all agree, right? Like having a set of language experts that are the expert of on your content, on your brand, on your tone of voice. It just makes it easier. Like then, but it's not always needed, right? Like, so key languages, key content types, like is you want to build that expertise like in-house or through freelancers, and then for the other, let's say, day-to-day content, you can rely on service providers that can allow you to scale as well. Maybe enter in a market faster rather than, and if there is the urgency. So the third question is, what are the most important data points for a loc manager to promote the value of to the wider organization? I'll start with you, Stefania, because in the end, like, you managed to show the value of localization.
Well,
so.
It's a constant battle. So the first thing that I did when I joined, of course, was trying to see where is the data, where can I find the data for our applications. And the first thing that we did was asking to have the data sliced per country and language. Otherwise, it's really, you cannot prove or see anything. It's been a hard task. It took probably several months to get that data, but after that, at least the first thing that you need to know is like the usage, like for the device language, at least for every country, to know your user base, to understand where to go, where to improve. So that was the first thing. Of course, depending on the type of content, it's important to align with the metrics that every team is looking at. So if the main metric for one of the application is new user conversion, then you can actually look at the data from the country language perspective. And in this way, so this is like the main, the big advance that we did compared to no data and having some data. Later, it really depends on some initiatives. For instance, if there is a big project on, I don't know, the Apple Store revamp, then you can actually measure how many the increase of the downloads per country, and from zero localization to some localization. This was something that it was really we could use to demonstrate some impact of the localization work. Then we've been doing a big machine translation project for the product catalog. And there, of course, this initiative was not like a business as usual one, but it was very high. It was really important for the whole business because there was a lot of investment, not only from my team, but also from the product and the tech team. So in that way, we also had the resources, the tech resources that could help us building a dashboard where we are actually checking the conversion of the feature, how many orders are done with machine translations. Once you have this data, you really see the impact. And when you see that some countries that were not doing well after this feature, then you see a growing number of orders. That, of course, is never. One important thing is that we cannot say that everything is due just to localization, because there are so many other factors that influence something. But then if you can correlate the dates of the launch and everything, so you can actually extrapolate the impact. So yes, basically the advice is making sure that, first of all, country language data, and then collaborating very closely with your stakeholder, product partners, or website partner to align on what they are trying to achieve, because then you are actually enabling them to achieving the results in the different markets that you are targeting.
Yeah, make sure that you have a good friend in the BI team, right? Like, that is
as well.
Yeah. So what about you, Matteo?
Yeah, similarly to Stefania, it's a constant struggle to get enough data, enough numbers to prove what the value of localization is. A lot of people, in my experience, see it as a box ticking exercise rather than something that can actually bring value. And yeah, I would say, even though it's often very hard to prove that it's had a direct impact on growth and sales and all of that, there are ways, like Stefania was saying, to make dates coincide where we've seen an improvement based on something that we've been doing. An example that comes to mind is we recently launched say recently, it's almost been a year now, launched a tone of voice guide for one of our languages, one of our main languages, in fact. And we've also hired a full-time copy person that works within the copy team, but within the language. And shortly after, we've become the most searched sports web brand in Germany for the subsequent months, as well as we ranked first in the Google brand tracker. So that was a great achievement. And something else that we've done is we ran an A/B test together with the CRM team for a country that has a low level of acceptance of English, where we didn't localize any emails previously. And in the 3 months following that exercise, we saw that we observed an increase in sales and an uplift so in clicks and impressions. So there are ways to prove the value of localization in ways that the business can respond to. It's about knowing who to talk to, or who to flood of messages and emails to try and get answers, I guess.
Petra, anything to add?
Yeah, I can just agree with Stefania and Matteo when they're saying that you need to be very annoying to get some data. I'm only at the beginning of that data-driven era of localization at Puma. But yeah, what I'm working at the moment on is to really find the allies who will provide us with the data, and to maybe collaborate more with the UX and analytics team to provide to check A/B testing, and also whenever we launch a new language, to see the impact of localization when launching a new language. So yeah, for me, I'm still not there yet, as Stefania is, but I have this in my planning for the next few months.
Yeah, there's light at the end of the tunnel, right? Like you can see that it's achievable, and you can actually make it happen. So yeah, that's great. And that was my last question actually for the panel today. I would say that now we can open it up for the questions from the public. Like, so over to you, Clara.
Exactly. We do have quite a lot of questions.
That's
So
great.
let me share the screen with them so we can all see them. So the first one from Evelyn: have you ever seen brand awareness grow as a result of localization?
I can take it. I do not have the data to prove it, but I think that if you are localizing a product, or you're localizing actually the brand itself for a country, so I think that you don't. Customers don't value a product that is maybe in English while your country language is Spanish, for instance. So I think that it goes hand in hand. And of course, if you make sure that the brand guidelines are reflecting the content, and not only in the localized content, but in general in the content of your product, then of course it's like a need to make sure that the brand awareness has a positive increase.
Yeah, to that I'd maybe add that, like I just mentioned, it's very hard to demonstrate direct impact and direct growth caused by localization. But I think if you manage to partner and work alongside all the teams that are responsible for pushing that growth, and I'm thinking about sales, I'm thinking about marketing, I'm thinking about events team even, you can be that consultant that they are looking for, but they don't know they're looking for, and then advise on what the best strategy to approach each individual market is, and then maximize or help them maximize brand awareness growth.
Thank you. Petra, do you want to add anything, or should we move on?
We can move on.
Okay.
Next one.
Thank you. Next one. A question to everyone. Is AI part of your day-to-day yet? If so, can you tell us how?
I would say AI is part of our day-to-day life. I mean, not only professionally, but also privately. But to reply to this question, yes, we use AI by using machine translation, because machine translation is also part of AI, or artificial intelligence. But where we are even more further advanced than with localization is actually writing our English copy by using an AI copywriter. So yeah, we are using AI on a daily basis, and we are planning on expanding the AI usage even furthermore.
Yeah, in the same line of Petra, I think that beyond the machine translation, we're working on the final on the content design system, and as soon as all the final guidelines, ideally we would use AI to make sure that every time designers are working, because of course the amount of UX writer that you have in the team is never going to be the same as the amount of product designer that you have in the company. So ideally we can use AI to make sure that guidelines are followed. So I'm envisioning a sort of AI bot that tells this is against guidelines, fix it. That's the plan. Yeah.
I haven't yet embedded AI in my localization strategy. I'm just at the start of the exploration and the discovery phase, I suppose. But I am very interested in observing what the trends are in terms of where AI is going, especially Gen AI. And I see potential for, cross-language content creation one day even. So going beyond what's traditional localization and translation. Yeah, I guess it's we'll have to wait and see.
Thank you, everyone. Next question from Robert. What e-commerce platform does your company use, and does it integrate with Phrase or another TMS for translation localization?
I'm not sure I can reveal the name, but it's one of the very common e-commerce platforms, and we are working on integration with Phrase. Yeah, but we use also integrations with Phrase for different types of projects, and yeah, my favorite is still Figma.
Yeah, same here. I can't really reveal, or I'm not sure I can, so I'd rather not, just in case. But yes, all of our integrations that we use are with Phrase.
Yeah, in my case, anything that is product, even the website, is backend driven. So we have all the content in GitHub. And for other types of content, there are different other platforms.
Okay, thank you for your diplomatic answers. Next question, what is the biggest challenge in your work between localization teams and design teams? What would be one feature or integration that would make your life easier?
I can take that. So yeah, the collaboration with the design teams is something that you need to build over time. So initially, my team is kind of, we have renamed ourselves as the guardians of the international users. So basically, we are in the UX department. So we work closely also, we are close to the different design teams. So at the beginning, how the relationship evolved was from, translations are too long, or we don't like this translation. So, and it evolved from just finger pointing, there is issues, translation always cause issues, to a relationship where a localization specialist is invited to a design ideation session. Of course, this is in the best of the cases, so it's not always like that, but I saw a change. So for instance, someone from the localization team goes to the design show and tell, to the critique session, to make sure that we also think about users that don't use English as their main language for everything. What we did, the feature, of course, yeah, you have Figma plugins for basically every translation management system. We actually trialed it, and we don't use in our main product workflow because plugins, they have some tech limitation, and depends also on the amount of volume, on the internal setup of different projects. But what we have been doing and enforcing it from the design perspective is the pseudo localization plugin. So at least they can run it it's a matter of seconds to run it, and you really have an idea of how the text can expand. And also special character and everything. And another one is for prototype, always Figma plugins for prototype. So anytime they have to use, before they were actually doing themselves, depending on translation, Spanish translation, French, whatever, their language, they were speaking the language, and then with this plugin, they can actually run it, and we can use it for their user testing mainly, or product communication. So in general, I think that you kind of need to be present, sometimes annoying, saying, hey, it's important that you take into account the character limitation. And also another important thing, we put some sort of mandatory step to add character limitation, because of course, an application, you have a very limited amount of space, and they need to make sure that the text boxes are expandable, and we can allow for 30% minimum of character expansion. And we are adding, as we speak, we are working on a design system where content plays an important role. So we have a section about internationalization. So at least the design system is used by designers and by developers as well. So there we have character limitation for the different components. Error messages, average character is this one. So they're kind of enforced from the beginning. We're still working on it, so I have to see if the guidelines are going actually to be used, but we are also thinking of a way to measure the usage of the guidelines, both in the code and then in the design in the design stage. But yeah, it's a never-ending job, the one of like collaborating and saying that localization also needs to be taken into account.
Well, you're going to have the bot, right, in the future that is going to
I don't know.
right?
I don't know. Probably.
Anybody else want to answer on the collaboration between design and localization?
I can maybe just add that I see a lot of design teams working in a very siloed fashion, and in that sense, I think it's up to me to make them realize the importance of the so-called translating in context. Visual context is very important, not just for UI translations, but I guess in mine and Petra's case for product copy translation as well. And oftentimes localization is the step that's forgotten about. So again, creating that awareness, creating that making that noise, let's say, is very important.
Thank you. Next question. How do you measure the impact of improved copy? Let's say the copy was translated by a translation agency in the past and the quality was not satisfactory, but now you have in-house language experts and you want to prove that the better quality they provide brings value.
Well, I can only say that we had quite often this issue where, because we used to work with an LSP and they provided us with translations, and for German, for example, the quality was really not that good. But thanks to our wonderful in-house copywriter, they really pointed out that the quality is not good, and once they started working on the copy, we received less complaints, because the complaints coming from internal department, from other departments such as marketing, and even from the end customers were pretty common. But now, since we improved the copy with our internal copywriter, those complaints are very rare. They happen very rarely. So yeah, we don't measure it, but we see the impact.
Anyone else wants to comment? It's okay if not. Can move forward to the next question. What has been the biggest change in managing localization within your organization in the past 12 months? From any aspect, content type, technology, requirements, etc. And this time, leaving AI apart. Very interesting. Who wants to go first?
I'd say
Matteo.
in my case, it's been a combination of new technology being available, so improved integrations or the ability of customize integrations across different platforms. So that's been definitely one thing. But then there's also the fact that there seems to be an urge of turning around a lot more content a lot faster than we previously did. And so finding newer and better ways to scale without losing quality. So the quality management aspect is still very important. And then in the event, which is not that common, of somebody very senior joining your organization that's a native speaker of one of the languages that you offer, and suddenly wanting to provide a lot of feedback, that has also prompted a bunch of changes in some of the languages that we offer within our portfolio. So yeah, it's I'd say it's a combination of things.
I can go. So, well, there have been quite a few changes. So, like, we started doing machine translation for our product catalog. We changed, we added one language for one of the application. We changed some internal processes. So, yeah, I think that in general, there are changes very often. So it's a bit, yeah, I think that these are the top three for me.
Yeah, I would say there was also a lot of changes in the copy and localization team at Puma. We changed some internal processes. We are working on the same content, but we introduced a lot of different tools. What was also the biggest change that I think now our regions have more trust in us that we are doing a good job. For example, I can say that for a language such as Japanese, our content team in Japan was very reluctant to have the content localized by our translator. But once we set up a meeting with our translator and with them, they have become more open to collaborate with us, and also they have become an integral part of the localization process, because, for example, they review the content on our end. So yeah, everything stays in the translation memory, and I think that's the best way to promote localization in the company, and to bring the positive changes.
Thank you very much. Next question is directed at you, Petra. Can your in-house team take on all your volumes, or do you also rely on LSPs or freelancers to outsource some localization work? And if so, how do you decide what to outsource and what to keep in-house?
So for the languages that we cover in-house, such as English, German, French, Spanish, we try to cover all of our volumes in-house. However, we always take into account people's holidays, and if it's a peak season, because we work in different seasons, then we outsource some of the content to LSPs and to freelancers. But we always discuss on a case-by-case basis. If it's like a very important collection, then it's a must for our internal team to take care of it.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to react as well? Maybe not. Okay, moving on. Do you have fixed language rates for your clients, or do you quote custom prices for them, which depend on the project scope? It's going to be probably language rates for your LSPs or for your freelancers.
Yeah, this is probably not a question for us, really.
I think maybe, like, imagine, like, if you are a provider within your organization, right? Like, so I know certain companies, they really handle it like that somebody asks a quote to get the translation done, like, and they get a price back. Like, so I don't know if this is the case for any of you.
If not, maybe Karina, you can ask again, maybe reword the question so that we understand better what you mean. Moving on. If you could ask for one thing to improve localization at your company, what would it be? No budget or resources limitations. You can dream big here. Who wants to go first?
I would probably have what I was mentioning before, in-house language specialists or copywriter for the most important countries and languages. So that would be the first thing. Then I would also have a localization engineer, localization data analyst, a big team. So the tech part is also covered, and you don't have a lot of dependencies on other teams. So that would be like the main thing.
Exactly what Stefania said. I would also hire a localization engineer that would collaborate with our engineering team to improve the data flow between our translations and the source copy and putting it live. But also a data analyst would be nice to have too.
Matteo, anything you would add?
Fully agree with both of them and nothing to add.
Okay, localization managers have the same dreams, it looks like. All right, next question. Do you consistently track conversion rates of your localized product pages or emails? And do you systematically apply experimentation to increase CRs, as in click rates, I imagine? Click rates.
Consistently is a very broad word. It's very dependent on how often I can get the data that I need. But whenever I can, yes, I always try to keep an eye on it. And yeah, I gave the example of emails, for instance, and A/B testing earlier. Those don't really happen very often, but when they do, I always try to make sure that I'm involved and what the outcome of them is to then adjust my efforts or perhaps look at the way we've been working up until that point. And if certain things have worked, then apply them a little bit more consistently and systematically.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, or Stefania, were you going to say something?
No, I was about to say that in general, depending on, of course, how the company is set, there are product managers that always, I mean, once you have the data set, organized, if the company is international, usually product manager and everyone monitor conversion in the different countries. So that one is like a must. And then in terms of experimentation, of course, there is also a lot of experiments that are going on a daily basis for the different features that are there. We have been doing some more copy A/B testing a bit more lately, and one of the objectives with my UX writing team this year is actually to create a content experimentation framework to not only test the copy, because the copy is just the copy, and ideally you would like to test how the content improves the usability of the test. So it's a mix of content and design and everything.
Thank you very much. Next question. Do you ever use raw machine translation in your processes and workflows that would be reachable by the customer? If the answer is yes, can you clarify how or where? If not, does this mean that all the content that you release is at least post-edited or proofread?
We never use raw machine translation, and we have everything post-edited. Short answer.
Raw MT mainly for internal use, like for internal documentation, but not for customers.
Yeah, not currently, but in past jobs, I've only used raw MT for testing purely, so just purely internal use.
Thank you very much. What's your favorite aspect of your job?
Oh, I'm going to say the variety and how cross-functional it is. So the variety means that no day is the same, really, which is something I highly value in my professional life. And also localization is by nature a very cross-functional role. So you get to interact with a lot of different people across the organization, a lot of different teams, and that in turn helps you learn a lot. And yeah, progress as a professional.
For me, I mean, I've been always into setting up processes, automating, looking for where I could, put more automation. But in this current role, I must say, working with different regions, getting to know them, to see what their needs are, and also managing the internal team and seeing them how they grow into their new roles. I think that's been my favorite aspect of my job so far.
Yes, so I agree with what Matteo and Petra said. I personally like a lot working on the product part, working with product manager, on tech people, or looking at processes, how you can automate anything. So that's my favorite part. And also, because you get to know a lot of people, you have like an overview of everything that is happening in the company. So yeah, but my favorite part would be the product aspect and then the product and the tech part. Yeah.
Thank you. How do you manage marketing campaigns that need to be planned simultaneously in 2 languages in terms of timing?
I think coming from a sportswear brand, there's a lot of seasonality that happens within the planning. So you need to work very closely with, I guess, campaign managers, product managers to understand what's being launched and when. And yeah, the planning is tied to, you know, volumes. It's tied to the priority, and you know, those are the main aspects that I take into account whenever I'm assessing my existing resources and whether I need additional resources. And you know, if that's not possible and if timings tend to collide, then there's a huge element of managing expectations internally and always coming with a solution rather than just a problem. So I try not to go to people and say, sorry, that's not feasible. But I always try to add what I can achieve is this, and you know, provide all the different caveats, all the different options, so that everybody's aware and they can pick and choose whatever option is most suitable to them.
Okay, Petra, Stefania, you don't want to comment?
I mean, similarly to Matteo, we also work in different seasons, and what we try to understand is when requests come to us with urgent campaigns, we simply prioritize those over the usual product copy that we are working on for future season. So yeah, there's a lot of balancing and reshuffling on a daily basis that is included in order to have marketing campaigns go live successfully.
Okay, thank you. And next question, how do you separate the possible impact of localization on growth in a given market from other factors like design, customer service, SEO, etc.? I think this was mentioned a couple of times that it's very hard to distinguish.
Yes, I mean, just repeat, it's very hard, and I don't think that also it's easy to isolate the impact of design as well in the growth of a country. So yeah, I mean, I do not have the magic formula, so I cannot. Yeah, ideally it would be nice to have it, but also we need to understand that it's very mixed, and yeah, I don't think it adds much value to have everything super in silo.
Mm-hmm. It's a package, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and perhaps one last question. This audience has been amazing. A lot of questions. Given the importance of UX and CX, would you agree that multilingual content creation or transcreation is more effective than translation? And which environment do copywriters work in, whether is it in TMS?
I would tend to agree. However, we need to take into account that it really depends on what type of content we're looking at, as that would call for different approaches. Of course, transcreation is always going to be more impactful because it goes one step further than just standard translation. But do we need to transcreate absolutely everything, or are there areas where doing that would be overkill? Or, for instance, are there areas where transcreation is not enough, and so we need to think about copy origination directly in a different language? So it's about being strategic in that sense. The copywriters, linguists, transcreators I work with do tend to work for, I'd say, 98%, 99% on TMS, so on phrase in this case.
Yeah, same. I mean, I know the copywriters in my team love transcreation, but we use mostly translation in the product copy because we have a lot of content, and there is not always time to be very transcreative with the product copy. But sure, for the banners and taglines on the website, we use transcreation, and as Matteo said, transcreation is great, but we need to also take into account different constraints that we have.
Yes, I agree with what Petra and Matteo said. On top of that, sometimes it's also important that you differentiate the level of localization that you need, because otherwise you kill yourself, because you become too expensive for the company in the era of AI. Not using any automation and just doing transcreation, it's basically killing your own department. And in general, well, in my case, UX writers, they work in Figma, so in the design tool. This is where the copy is written. But a copywriter, they can work like what Petra and Matteo already mentioned.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. That was the last question, and we are perfect on time. So Andrea, unless you wanted to ask some additional questions to our panelists, I think we can.
No, I'm good. But
Sum
definitely, thank you, Stefania, thank you, Matteo, thank you, Petra. It was a very, very interesting conversation. I was very happy to see also so many questions. Like that was I think I learned a lot. So thank you for this, and hope to see you next time.
Yeah, thanks for organizing it. It's been really interesting.
Yes, thanks for having us.
Thank you for inviting us, and it was a lot of fun.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.